Definitely over here the Bretts and you can have. I don't know. That wasn't gonna be. But. Yes. Yes. She has a spot. Does she? Yeah.
Can you see?
I just want to make sure that you on your seat actually no longer than you good. Hello, I'm Leslie Goodwin. Leslie, Stephanie. Nice to meet you.
May I?
Hello.
Therefore. Bad are the fires around the country, so
Still. We still have teams going out. Nationally, we're at a preparedness level 5, which is the highest, and most of the regions are anywhere from PL2 to PL4.
Okay, sure. So it's been a while.
There's no resources.
Great organization. It feels nice what they have a resource for, you know, entrepreneurs because absolutely. I think overall means a better word. Yes, to understand. Any of it.
I like that word. That's a
Didn't know if
it's
somebody say something about Heather.
haven't heard that.
not a,
Yeah.
it's not a H side, it's a.
Okay. Okay, we're meeting for September Board of Directors for Manhattan Area Technical College to order. Everybody had a chance to review last month's minutes and the consent agenda for tonight.
Mr. Chair, before you get that far, adjustments to the agenda,
Okay,
the one that's not listed that we're going to add in with the Senate report and bargaining.
okay,
So if you've got the most recent email, Susie, that has the adjusted agenda, which I think, oh, there it is, we are. Okay. Then we have introductions and announcements.
yep.
There's Susie conducted the vote of the board members the last 30 days, and Mr. Urban was voted in as vice chair and has accepted the position. In charge of vice. And we have a new board member representing Gary County. If you would care to tell us about you and how you can help us and how we can help you.
Excellent. My name is Leslie Goodwin, born and raised Junction City. Grew up Eastern Gary on a farm. So my dad was an engineer, so we made everything. My dad hated to buy anything. So all started with that. I left Junction City saying it's a small town, never wanted to come back. Down to University of New Orleans, played volleyball down there, got my accounting degree. Realized a murder a day is not where I want to live. So I've been home since 1995. My husband and I, we have 5 kids. One of them that's attending here, HVAC. She's loving it, by the way. I just feel my accounting background, my finance, I can help in that area. I have great ties to the community over in Junction City. Those little things I can help.
Thank you for agreeing to work with us and get up to speed on things. We also have several new employees that we introduce.
Okay.
Some are here, so we'll start with the ones that are here in the room. Our former math teacher. Custodian.
My problem.
Lisa first, then David. You want to tell everybody about you and what you do?
Okay. I am Lisa Isaacson. I am the executive director of the Flood Hills Community Accelerator, a childcare business initiative, and at Manhattan Area Technical College, I am the director of early childhood education. Very excited to be here. Love the fact that I get to be a part of MATC, which is a huge part of this community. Childcare, of course, is a need that we definitely have here. in our community and our workforce. So I felt that I get to be part of helping to add more education and experienced providers out into our workforce. I originally was born and raised in Republic County, Kansas. If you know what Southland is, it's a little town, 250 people. I too left my small town, ventured off into the world, moved to Japan, went to Germany, and then came back to Kansas right before COVID hit. Took a position on Fort Riley as their school age care director. And since then have decided that this is definitely my home. Manhattan is very near and dear to my heart. And the more time that I spend here, I feel like this is where I need to be. So very happy to work with all of you. And if you ever have any questions about the projects or the program, please let me know.
Say she hit the ground running as a, those of you that know about this new project. We see her every once in a while.
And I love going up around Cortland to go pheasant hunting.
Oh, yep. Good pheasant hunting up there.
David,
All right, I'm David Umansora. I am from Funky Town, Fort Worth, Texas. No, it doesn't give me a lot of fans around here because I cheer for the wrong purple. But we are very well invested at K-State. My wife's over at the school at Vet Med, so I'll probably be cheering for the other purple pretty soon. I have been here now, I guess, 2 months, I think. I'm doing outreach. I'm really focusing on business and industry. My big focus is, of course, as an institution, our big focus is workforce development. And how can we get folks connected and seeing what the needs are in industry and how we can better fit their needs for workforce. But I think the second part as well is just seeing, I think entrepreneurship, we have a lot of folks coming in that are into our institution that are interested in starting their own businesses or are part of family-owned businesses, and how can we support them in those efforts? But I'm here. We're also reaching out to the school districts to start start concurrent classes and dual credit classes with school districts we don't have previous relationships with. Before I came up here, I was actually doing suicide prevention work, so very, very different from what we're doing now. But I was always involved with community development and economic development to some degree over the last several years. But my strengths are really program design and community outreach. I think besides that, I'm also working with the marketing team to fill out what the needs to better market tech.
it's fun to have around. He's been raiding my bookshelf regularly. I think there's a lot of connections between suicide prevention and workforce education. We both give people hope, so. Any questions for David? Anybody on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you too. You're welcome to hang around as long as you want. You're also welcome to leave and enjoy your real life.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you guys.
Let's see. Okay, now we're up to,
Okay.
Sorry.
So everybody had a chance to review the previous month's minutes and such, and check register. I do have one question on the check register. The Eating Brothers ATC setup.
Eaton Bros.
Is that it? Yeah. Kitten Bros.
Remember what that one was?
I'm just curious on why I'm seeing general fund rather than,
Oh, gotcha. Remember why that one wasn't through the loan?
It was always quoted outside of the loan. When we worked with Kenton Brothers kind of in the main building outside of the ATC project.
okay,
And clear back when that project started, we were gonna budget it through security fee and kind of an add-on. So it's connected with this project, but it wasn't new. That partnership was already there, so.
okay. I'm just, because I see ATC and wonder why the two aren't tied together. So we have a motion for approval. Second. Then motion and seconded, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Monday morning, Karen, I got an email from David. David, I thank you. I went into Kara's office. I said, way to go, get the banker upset on Monday morning. No, I bring it up because it's a great example of how we help each other and hold each other accountable. Because we had submitted several requests for some payments, which was huge dollar, and David was making sure it was coming from us. Anything else, and that it was totally legit. So David, thank you. Sorry to get you a heart attack first thing. Problem. With that, let's slide over to Josh with the expenditure report.
Rolling. So. Not a lot to point out here. One thing I did want to. Right at the bottom, right here. You might wonder why this was broken out into two lines. The reason being what we're showing here on this one is the remainder, what was left in the loan from the finance portion was used there. So then this extra piece outside of that small remainder, those numbers and anything moving forward are now funded outside the loaned amount. So now we're back on us. But again, the project looks good. For those new, we financed 70-30 on the project. And we've now come to the end of the payments due to finish this building. There's a few remainders here and there to finish up that we should see in about one more pay application. Something else I wanted to bring up too, we did get the final official amortization schedule for the project. Again, as a reminder, and then those new, so we're actually only due interest only payments until September 25 is when the first principal payment hits officially. We're not held to that. We can pay early if budget permits, but that's what we're required. So once that starts September of 25, that principal plus interest minimum payment due is about $88K. So for that fiscal year, we'll total just over 1 million total minimum due. So we finally have this now that we can work off as our official document for budget planning, etc. Questions on any of that? Okay.
This is just kind of more of an announcement, just to kind of keep you all in the loop. That we do have the fiscal year 24 audit. It's scheduled for October 9th. Is just the date that they're going to be on site and asking all the questions. And so with that being said, then at the next meeting in October, we plan on presenting the fiscal year 24 actuals just alongside the budget. Yeah, the next meeting.
That's the same firm that we've used previously.
Yeah, same question.
Who was that from?
Keenson Pennick.
We have to have auditors who will do GASB, right?
Yeah.
So many of them don't do.
Do we ever competed after so many years to have someone else?
We haven't for a while because of that GASB thing. We've had
That's the thing that
and these two guys, they've been, the advantage, I guess, is they know us and they've been very good at giving us guidance and advice for improvement. Since they know us and know what we're working on. It's not saying we shouldn't look for others from time to time. Their guidance the last several years has been pretty valuable on the cost of the audit. The 2-year rolling academic calendar. I had several people comment on this, but I'll take first crack. As you know, we align our enrollment dates to start semesters and semesters with K-State because we do have co-enrolled students. Also, the Regents made a push about 3 years ago to try to get everybody on a common spring break week. It's 98% true in the state. Hutchinson Community College refuses to change theirs. A couple other school districts don't. So when K-State changes their calendar, we have to change ours. But what we have in policy is administration works with faculty leadership so that we put the calendar together. So it meets contractual obligations, meets the K-State timeline. So we can plan the in-services, the holidays and everything else. So this has been revised somewhat because of K-State changed their calendar. Their calendar goes out several years, but they change it not every year because something comes up. Am I missing anything, Brian?
No, one of the things that we did with faculty senate is we voted unanimously that if K-State, because Chris and I were kind of looking at the calendar and it starts pretty late in August and we're figuring they're probably gonna move it up like they did this year. That way we don't have to go through another vote for faculty senate, so and they changed their calendar to change our calendar as well. I think one of the main reasons faculty wise that we stay with K-State is, especially for the gen eds, a lot of times they'll go to K-State and say they don't like the first class, or they don't, they just don't like the way the class is set up. We'll sometimes get some enrollments that will come this way because of, we let our students in through the first week of classes and the gen eds. Obviously programs are different, but for the gen ed side of it, that's kind of why we stay with K-State.
And K-State has seen enough co-enrollment happening unofficially that they have contacted me about dusting off the old agreement we've given them a couple times. They're giving more students who aren't ready for K-State. See what happens this time as we start to work together and see if we can get that through.
So that flexing date, that's what that reflection for August 25th is for next year. Okay. I'm like, hold it.
Well, a lot of times the high schools start a lot earlier too. That's what Chris and I were talking about. They started with the 14th this last year. So I think they're probably gonna move it up just to kind of coincide with them a little bit. And then,
They're more driven by athletic, what the Big 12 is doing, how they have to change their calendar for that more than anything else.
but when we get done with finals, literally the next week would be Christmas. So I don't know if they're gonna get that close to Christmas either, so.
Remind me what goes on June 2nd through the 25th of July.
Summer session.
Summer session, but I mean, who's here? Are they?
We get gen ed. Yeah, we're all. We get gen ed.
What
This
students are here?
mostly gen ed. There is some program students are in internships, et cetera, but we do get some this summer. I think we had a record enrollment with gen ed. Some kids getting into some of the stuff that they failed on. Actually, I think it can get revenue this time in summer session.
Some of the high school students will take, it's been their senior year, they'll get done with an instructor, and if they like that instructor, then they'll go ahead and take the summer class here before they go on to a four-year college.
Especially if it's Brian, Rachel, Matt, Chelsea. Sure, we need approval since you've approved the calendars, just so you know that. K-State changes, we will modify. And now to the all-important policy updates. Brian, I think you're first, faculty.
So I told them I'd keep it at least 20 to 30 minutes, so. But no, we want to, with HLC coming in the middle of October, we went ahead and we looked at our policy about, what was it, 4 years ago, we updated it. Spent, I think it was 5 Fridays till 6 o'clock working together as faculty to get this thing, because we had, when I first took it over, we had, I think it was 2 different bylaws and a policy that we all basically put together. Luckily Deirdre did a great job, our nursing faculty member, put all 3 in the same grouping, so then we just kind of dissect it that way. The main reason that we did it, we just found a few grammatical errors, but if you'll scroll down to the divisions. Right there. Okay. I've looked this too many times. We went ahead and aligned it with the division chairs that we currently are now using to help carry with the more programs that we bring in and stuff like that. you know, we had to add some programs that we didn't have in the past. Chris had a fun time working with us with that. It was always. But that's basically the main reason why we want to do it with HLC coming. We wanted them to see if, you know, we have the division chairs. Why do the division chairs not match up with the divisions we have in our faculty senate policy? So, make sure of that. Any questions on that?
Dumb question, what's HLC?
The Higher Learning Commission, what
I
Keeps us-
assumed it was something along those lines, but.
keeps me employed, yeah, cause
You'll
Well,
get more
that's-
on that in a little while.
yeah, you'll have lots of fun with that, so.
Scare the new ones away.
It's not bad. I've got 5 sessions with them, so they'll get tired of me. So.
Is there a reason that we have no term limits? Or is it just because nobody wants to do it, so somebody?
Check and check. All right, yeah. Let's just say when my position has come up, yeah. The way I got into the position in the first place is, Lynn, who was here for quite a few years and did it for quite a few years. Obviously his program, they let it go. And I was told by one of the faculty members, you have to be the next one. I said, well, I don't know, you are. So that's like with my marriage, I got voluntold.
It's recorded.
I'm sure she knows.
Oh, yeah, yes.
It's the good and bad of a small college like us. I think you have people that will agree to do something if they're good at it,
You stay.
they stay for quite a while. Brian's in my office frequently, but it's also a good way for us to talk things out without things becoming a brush fire or some other issue. So,
One of the things that's not on here that we've just kind of agreed to is usually we try to have one for chair and vice chair. We try to have one that's a program person, one that's gen eds. Because a lot of times when we have our meeting with administration, monthly meeting with them, it's kind of nice because we can, you know, talk about gen ed stuff and I'm kind of running that. And then we get to the program stuff, packs and stuff like that, then Jeff can take over. So we try to kind of mix the strengths with that as well, so. Any other questions on that? And as far as like faculty senate updates, not a whole lot. I mean, we just getting rolling. One of the things that I will kind of bring up, because I know Kim's in it, Jim's in it, advisors, we've been doing a lot of stuff with the state with math pathways, and so that's probably gonna be bringing up some things that will be coming up to you guys on the board and stuff like that. One thing I want to point out is the state is recorded. It's not very smart. And that they want to get rid of intermediate algebra. And it's funny because I've almost doubled in my enrollment for intermediate algebra this semester. I went from 33 in Wamego High School to 51. And more and more want to take it. And so they want to go to co-requisites now instead of prerequisites because they say that prerequisites are going to keep your retention rates down. Well, obviously Jim's been fighting it a lot. I've been kind of giving my voice, and no, it's the opposite here. If it wouldn't be for prerequisites, our enrollment would be pretty low because we have a lot of students, non-traditional students coming, you know, either from the military or just, you know, farm or whatever. And they come in after 10 or 15, 20 years, they're trying to do math, write papers, you know, biology, whatever. They need those prerequisites to get them rolling again. I think Rachel would probably voice her opinion as well, that we need we need that for our group. So I've been talking with Jim, and after our visit, that's gonna be our next goal, and Pamela's on it as well, so.
What the state regents are pushing is what other states have done successfully, but then Kansas tweaks it. They don't think legislators don't think, and I agree, that higher education should be getting funding to do remedial work that the kids should have had it in the high school. They should have it. But you can say that. The fact of the matter is there's a huge math gap. So intermediates will be no longer funded by the state. We can still offer it, but we will get no state funding for it. We only get our tuition and fees. Intermediate algebra right now is a requirement for nursing. I've asked repeatedly at the regions, have they talked to the State Board of Nursing? Well, I don't get a real answer. I just get kind of a shrug and like, they don't care. With the Math Pathways project, they're gonna have 3 pathways for math if you're gonna go into college. College algebra is the preferred one. Of course, that's what the universities are pushing. You still need college algebra. And if you go into calculus and other things, sure. Second one will be an elementary statistics. Statistics matters more than a lot of the other math courses for people. The danger is, are they going to water elementary statistics down too much? Then the third choice is what's called contemporary math. It's a lot of basic math. I would call it, when, you know, everybody's got that drawer in your kitchen that everything goes into, that's contemporary math. So I've said this in the Regents meetings. Yeah, we're gonna do whatever we can to optimize state funding, but then we're also gonna do whatever it takes to get the kids the competency they need. So we'll get more information down the road. The change is not effective until fall of 26. They have not talked with K-12 about this at all.
And you guys would probably know too, that that's where you, I mean, really, when I was talking to Suzanne, our advisors, and I recommend starting even at the middle school and working up. Cause you got all your stakeholders coming from the high school that are not prepared. And even when I brought it up to high school students, one of the main comments, and I've said this across the state, is, but what about if we get a bad teacher? Well, you're stuck. And that's kind of been the comment that I've gotten from a lot of high school students I work with, is they say, we're bad at math, but we also haven't taught. So until and what's funny is we just got done with a meeting the other day, and I met with the 2 Department of Ed people, and they both said that, you know, when I went to Anaheim, I don't remember when that was, about 6 months ago, they were told, get a group together and then we'll start talking things out, and you can disperse it amongst the high schools. Last meeting, they said they've never been told anything yet. And then every time I bring it up in the meetings, they're like, well, the high school, they'll come along. They're not just gonna come along. How many high schools do we have in the state of Kansas, and how many of the small schools do you have that they don't have that opportunity to be able to teach the higher level math? So
Get you more updates as things go along.
Our business program, does it require intermediate?
Most of our degrees do, with some of the certificates, so we're gonna be working with faculty. I've asked Brian to develop the contemporary math course. We'll have to add that. There's a core with all of these courses we have to do to make them transferable. We can go beyond the core. We have to make sure we cover the core. So part of it is examining the contemporary math core and where can we fit in either there or even in elementary stats, some of the stuff they're not getting with intermediate algebra. Also looking at Tech Math 2, the requirement from certificates, and how much farther can we lead students that way. The state version right now, or the Regents version on Math Pathway, if you're not ready for contemporary math, college algebra, or elementary stats, you will be placed into adult education. Get your math, which is nice, other than it's not funded for college enrollment. Is it effective? It can be effective. But again, if you really examine, you've got this math gap between K-12 and higher ed. And now you're telling these kids, well, if you don't fit in one of these, you're going into adult ed, and yet the state doesn't want to pay for developmental ed.
now, one correction on what Jim said is actually our associates take Tech 2 math, and our certificates.
Some programs.
Yeah, programs, but the programs certificates take Tech 1. Then if they go for their associates, they do Tech 2. So luckily with Jim pushing a lot of buttons And the other technical colleges, they were gonna stop funding on that, and now they're not, so.
We're gonna take away funding for Tech Math 1 and 2. Before we go further, I think this policy will need board action. We are done with the faculty senate part. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Then I think we're adding on real quickly some marketing. Rachel, I know you've been involved with that. So,
Would it be all right if I handled the presentation?
You thought I was long.
No, I'll maximize your time.
Saying I'll be-
Minimize our time.
Can I also just do this?
Well, yeah, you definitely can.
All right, so I'm Rachel, I teach communications here, and I've been very lucky because Jim and Chris have graciously given me the opportunity to work on the marketing team this year. And I do want to say that Bryant, I am actually not sure what his title is, but he has been marketing for the last couple of years. And so while I might be the one delivering this message today, I do want to make it clear that over the last few years, he's done just some phenomenal work. Like all of the things that you have seen to this point, that's Bryant. So I think he might be coming in a few months or something. So he'll tell you everything that he's done because I wouldn't do it justice. And he's been a team of one until now. So that's impressive, probably stressful, but I did want to mention that. But so tonight, what I want to talk about is a lot of the time people will they get anxious about marketing and they just want to post and they say, come on, just post something, anything, just get something up there because something is better than nothing. And I want to just take a journey with you and explore to see, is that true? So what you're about to see, this is a Facebook post that our team has recently developed. It says, you know all about the hard work, sweat, and determination that it takes to provide for your family. You've seen the guts it takes to build a better future, and it isn't always easy, but you've never liked easy. Someone taught you how to work hard. Now let us help you get to work. So since I've had more time with that post, and I want to respect your schedule, I'm just going to go over a few of the things that I notice about that straight away. So that post to me, that's not for everybody. So that's not to an 18-year-old who's almost ready to graduate, nor is it for, maybe someone who is kind of on the fence about college. This post, this is really for someone who might be affiliated with the military and ready to get out, or someone who is looking for a second career. And we know that because you can tell here that it's talking about prior experience that demographic would actually have. And it's speaking to those traditional values of hard work, determination, and how that really ties into a family responsibility. The second thing that I want to point out is I see a little bit of empathy and understanding, but it doesn't stay there. This has that touch of motivation because it's recognizing things from the past, but it is pushing the audience toward the future. This voice that the post has, it's strong and direct, but it's reflecting Manhattan Tech's understanding of that blue collar pride and those traditional values. When we go on to the problem, I can sense a problem because it addresses that struggle of providing for family while you're working toward a better future. Because I think all of us can agree right now, it's hard enough just to provide for a family, but when you're trying to make yourself better and do that, it's even harder, and that recognizes that. But it pushes them once again toward that future. But the way it does that is it reminds the audience of the reward of a hard day's work and how that short-term sacrifice really brings that long-term value that they're looking for, that stability. There's a lot of words that we could look at, but I wanted to just bring your attention to 3 sets. So you've never liked easy. That really challenges the audience, like, hey, you should remember who you are. because it also reminds them of the pride they have when they work hard and they get the job done. Next, someone taught you how to work hard. That's an emotional appeal, and it takes that audience back to the simpler time that we referenced earlier. It gives credit to their past. It validates their past, but it also positions Manhattan Tech as that next step in their journey. And lastly, now let us help you get to work. That is a clear call to action that says, Manhattan Tech, we are knowledgeable, we're trustworthy, and we are your partner for the future. So I want to ask you, do you think we can just get on the phone right now or a computer and post something? What do you think? I don't think we should do that. Because posting is not strategy. Because when we are coming up with a strategy, it's not about posting content, whether that's on social media, the website, which Neil has done an amazing job working with New Boston on that. It's not about the wonderful graphics that Bryant makes. Really, there's three main things. Marketing strategy, it's about building relationships. It's about establishing credibility, and it's about building the voice for Manhattan Tech. There's a lot of things that go into that, but I have simplified it into three core things. So first, we have to align messaging and visuals with our target audience, because if we talk to everybody, we're talking to nobody. And I'm going to say this, and you might not like it at first, but let me finish, because our college, we're not for everybody, but that's okay. So someone who might want a fine arts degree, we're really not marketing to them. Sure, we'd love to help them out on some gen eds maybe, but we need to be targeted in exactly who we're talking about, because we're here to serve our people. Next is consistent messaging, because that reinforces our identity, but most importantly, it builds that credibility with our audience, because it says, this is who we are, this is who we've always been, and we're here for you. And lastly, engagement and conversation. Often marketing is thought of as a monologue. It's not. We have to think of that as a dialogue, because why would we be talking to ourselves? What we're doing there is we are inviting two-way communication, because we want our audience to be a part of that conversation, and we want to share our story with them so they can share theirs with us. So there's a lot more that we've done so far this semester. I can't talk about all of it, but just a few things. Again, Bryant has done an amazing job with visual branding. You probably have seen some of it. It looks nice. It looks fresh. It looks modern. He has just night and day difference in what he's been able to do there. In fact, we watched him today make some graphic changes. I think it was in under 30 seconds. He made something just look phenomenal. So he did just amazing. The next is brand messaging. So we're making a brand messaging guide, and that's going to be for anybody in the college who either writes content or engages with, students such as Michelle and Rose, our admissions team. So that is basically, how do we talk? Who are we talking to? What's our key messaging differentiators? How do we talk? And so much more. We've built audience profiles, because remember, if we're talking to everybody, we're talking to nobody. So we have made about like a single spaced page, just talking about all the demographics. What do they like, the psychology of them? What do they value? How can we really connect with them? We've also made content pillars. So think of those as buckets or themes. So anytime we write content, they need to fit in one of those themes so we can be organized and know exactly what we're going toward. And those are also audience aligned. We've done hashtag research, because there are different strategies for different social media platforms. We've looked into low, mid, high volume strategy, how many hashtags to post. We're also working on success measures. How are we even going to know that we're succeeding? We've looked at how do we need to stay away from vanity metrics, because maybe we have a lot of views, but what about the shares and clicks? Competitor analysis, that's kind of self-explanatory, but now we're in some interesting things like the economy is a competitor, but this emotional idea of, is education worth it? we're working on a content calendar, and that helps us with a process as well as a plan. So just to give you an idea, we will write content, and then Bryant, he kind of goes in and makes sure it's what it needs to be and that it aligns with our strategies, and then he approves that. And then a big project we're doing is student journey mapping. So from the time a student inquires to graduation, we want to know what's the communication, where is it coming from? Because there might be opportunities for follow-up, and we can probably even automate some of that. We can maximize those touch points, track behavior, segment our audience for more direct follow-up, other marketing campaigns, all kinds of stuff. So that was kind of quick, but we've done a lot of work. This all happened just this semester, and there's so much more work to do. The whole team, so David, Bryant, Chris is involved, I'm involved. We've been so excited to keep all of this moving forward, develop this marketing strategy. We're aligning it with our strategic plan, and we're ready to tell Manhattan Tech's story. But most of all, we're really looking forward to building that relationship with our students from the very first time that they say hello. Any questions on any of this, or Chris, did I miss something?
This is an evolution of what we've been doing. A lot of you have been with us for a while, and last few years we really stepped up the visual pieces of it. Now we're gonna do the intentional pieces. How do we build the stories? How do we connect? We have that dialogue instead of a monologue.
Share a bit about it.
Sure, so we've also partnered with Middle. Rachel, chime in if you guys have more conversations than I know of. We are working on a new video campaign. It's gonna basically be a storytelling from our students, and there's gonna be a generational aspect to it. Of a parent going through one of our programs, passing on to one of their kids, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And then at the very end, we are gonna use our own students and the alumni, and at the very end, the last page will be, these are real students, these are real stories. And kind of just build this, it's the get after it. Everything comes down to this grit, just go and get after it.
And they did record some video during the ribbon cutting day. We had Carl Ice, several others. I think. So there's a lot more to come related to telling the story.
We're building our library of video footage, photos. The team's been working really well. Next month, hopefully we'll have a couple new TikTok videos to show you all. That'll it's highlighting Tip Tuesday.
Tech tip.
Tech Tip Tuesday. So some exciting things.
Like Taco Tuesday.
You, Rachel?
Absolutely.
I realize you said you were gonna try to figure out what measure of success is. Before you get started, you must have had something in mind as to what this does for us, other than makes us look better and sound better. So what was the initial purpose? I'm all for it, don't get me wrong. I just want to understand what you think when we get done with all this. Does it result in more students? Does it result in what?
So I initially started this conversation with the team in August, and the whole my big push was I need a strategic marketing plan that supports our strategic planning from Jim. And so that's where it really leads to, and we kind of start getting into this. Yes, we need more students, but then we started realizing that's his plan. Our plan is we have to start building out those success stories and finding those things to support him.
So I mean, it's gonna reinforce enrollment. Gonna reinforce employer relations. We wanted to also reinforce how do people support us, whether it's the legislature, a donor, whatever. So it's, again, the storytelling part of to keep the world working, to get after it. I love that hashtag. Providing higher education is the one that we always get raves about, and we've got to get trademarked. And it really resonates. I appreciated the lady. First meeting where I kind of challenged her, and she came back with homework. And Rachel, I have to say, in the marketing meetings I sat in, Rachel's observations from our students, getting them and they're writing for her, but she's capturing information from them, their feelings, their observations, and bringing that back to us. That's what really helped tip this into this storytelling, this whole idea of grit. I said, I really want like Morgan Freeman's voice. Like grandpa or the old uncle looking at the kid, the niece or nephew going, get after it. You can do this. For a lot of the youngsters, it's that nudge that they need. So it's all designed to, how do we reinforce enrollment, completion, job placement, earnings, and support.
I think for my part of it, I've noticed that we have a lot of like brand name recognition, but not necessarily that story component of like who we really are, or we have past ideas about who we are. So we're really taking charge of that narrative to help people see, you know, this is what we really do. And this is how, you know, of course, our main goal is to help students, but really we're such a community, you know, we really help the community and even the region through what we do. And so we're trying to be more in control of that narrative. So.
That last, I'm glad that you said the last part, because being a community member, that's what I get asked the most, and it's hard to answer.
People know we're here. They don't know. what we
They
do.
don't know why, and they really don't know what the impact is of that being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Great job.
Absolutely.
We do need to approve the faculty senate policy.
Entertain a motion for approval of the faculty senate. Policy is laid out by Brian.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Policy. Good luck, Brian.
Sorry. So, the last time our admissions policy was touched was in 2012. Part of our OCR review visit caught, our English proficiency policy and didn't like the way it was phrased and essentially said that we were violating. Well, it was a finding that basically said, we went against one of the CFR codes that says that we weren't providing services because we were, the way it was worded. So that made me get started on the policy and then realized how outdated our admissions policy truly was. So the goal with this was to bring the policy up to date with our current standards and practices and make sure that all of our programs are within one policy as well as our limited English policy and everything else under our admissions requirements. For the most part, the same structure for the old policy has existed. The wording has just been updated. You will notice that unfortunately the copy that I provided, Susie does have Salina Area Technical College mentioned in the policy, because I caught it after I wrote for the policy. Obviously I consult with colleagues at various institutions and I'm not about adapting and recreating the wheel. So one of the policies was based upon undocumented students and the affidavit that we're required to do by the Kansas Board of Regents. And I missed that.
I noticed it when I read it today.
I've read it 900 times and missed it the entire time until the packet went out and one of my colleagues said, you know that you missed that? Thank you for catching it. So I have caught it. It is updated on the copy that will be uploaded to the policies and procedures. But if you read through it lays out the basic admission requirements. And then one of the big changes to this also was to combat against AI. Obviously, a big issue is that we are having issues in our writing program, which Rachel just left. More people are using AI to write for them. So the goal is to allow ACT scores to come in as a opportunity for multiple measures for placement standards, but we're requiring the AccuPlacer moving forward. Reason why is when students take AccuPlacer, they take a right placer. So on admissions, we get a writing sample right then up front. We then, once they enroll in English, they do another writing sample the first day of class. And then by the time they write their first paper, we have 3 writing samples to be able to compare and hopefully see a little bit difference, because as AI gets smarter, obviously it's going to be harder to combat some of this. Obviously, Rachel does her own stuff, but that will give us the opportunity to get a clean writing sample, because most of the time they don't realize they're coming in with that piece. And obviously with lockdown browsers on our campus, you can't use AI to write that initial one in AccuPlacer. So it gives us a sense of tone and stylistic components before they enroll in those courses and programs. It's a very long policy, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. Were there questions about it or anything stand out that was outlandish?
Nothing outlandish, but you talked to us a couple of meetings ago about DEI and the problems you're having with the federal government changing. Diversity,
That's on.
Program. You think that help? Doesn't this tie into that somehow?
We're still waiting for the conflict between the feds and the state to get resolved. Will it ever get resolved? I don't know. It's all the Title IX stuff. And the resolution probably won't happen until after the election and see if anything changes.
Right.
So with this policy, this is fixing some of our compliance issues from not having had it revised for a while. It is following most of the equal opportunity and the basic civil rights stuff that's not being challenged. So the parts of the regs that are under challenge, we are under a federal judge order that we cannot enforce the new federal policy in those areas. This does not touch that.
The goal with this, or what the findings was at the OCR report, the English proficiency policy that was written in admissions stated verbatim that students that came to our campus are required to be 100% English proficient. While I agree and don't disagree all the same standpoints, we have procedures and processes now when we didn't have adult ed that could account for co-enrollment and some other components and some supported measures to assist students to gain the English proficiency before they get into our programs. So they just didn't like the way it was written. And since the inclusion of adult ed, I needed to add in the ability for that co-enrollment aspect, those tape tests and whatnot. So less about that. Title IX is just a mess still. So
It always will be.
yes.
Especially with KBOR preferring that our remedial work come under adult ed. New policy fixes that. Questions or comments? You need board action.
Entertain a motion to approve the admissions policies as corrected, removing Salina Tech.
They're held packets for a while. So
I'll move approval.
It's been moved. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Approved.
Taylor and Patterson.
I'm Lynn Parado, and I am the Special Assistant to the President for Strategic Initiatives. And I think we all are grateful to the board for approving the purchase of a augmented reality, virtual reality trailer. But that and our work on the Patterson grant, which I'll just explain in a moment, is really part of our strategy for growth, but it's also part of our strategy to, from a curricular standpoint, remain vital, because things are really moving into the AR, VR realm, not only for kind of traditional education of students, but also as well in the workplace. So with respect to the Patterson Family Foundation grant, we submitted our grant proposal for the amount of about $681,000. The Patterson Family Foundation is a foundation that supports development in rural areas, where I live in Kansas, as well as Western Missouri. Raleigh County is not part of that. What we did in our grant is we created a grant which specified that in order to help students really look towards pursuing technically career-focused trades areas, which was a focus of the Patterson Family Foundation and their Technical Community College Capacity Grant, that what we would do is we would use augmented reality and virtual reality in the form of a mobile trailer so that we could bring out to those students, as well as to their parents, as well as to the significant influencers in their lives, to teachers as well, to guidance counselors as well, to not only from grade 6 through the time when they're hopefully enrolled with us in concurrent courses in their high schools, have that experience and have that positive experience or frame reshifting about what it means to be a person in the trades, the new blue collar. So we developed our grant around that using AR, VR, mobile technology trailer, which was part of that. The training of teachers in that area, the mentoring of teachers by our faculty. And as well, to provide those teachers as part of that grant with tools that they could use within their classrooms that again could leverage technology. So, you know, sometimes just a ruler is what you need, but other times there are a lot of really robust programs that exist in the augmented reality and virtual reality world that are out there that could really inspire, enlighten, and be instructively. So the grant has been submitted. We will see in hopefully the end of November, early December, whether we are funded or not. But also part of that was when we came to you with the trailer proposition, when we learned that some of the people that we were dealing with to spec out what a trailer would cost, had available and rarely available a AR, VR used trailer that was used by a school and technology provider in North Carolina, which traveled around the country really to bring technology to people. They were moving in a different direction. We had the opportunity to purchase one, and so that was the 37.5 trailer, $37,500 trailer with VR, AR equipment in it, so that hopefully we will bring that from North Carolina here in November. So we're excited about doing that. But that really moves us to as well to round out what our strategic vision of this is to not only be able to market the college and introduce through this technology a lot of offerings that we do have at Manhattan Tech, but also to bring it out to and to partner with businesses where we could do that training with businesses, with virtual welders, which we already have, and other programs that we could partner with and grow our relationships with businesses. So this is kind of part of our rounded perspective for a technology that is growing, and it's something that will be, you know, it's already being used, you know, Walmart uses it. Automotive industries are already using this type of training technology so that we could find ourselves as part of that solution using this technology. So update there. Once again.
All right, do we have? So the trailer has the headsets, it has the hardware. Do we have the software, I guess, to support that? Like, do we have the training modules for automotive or the training modules for nursing where I can put the headset on and I can kind of be a lobotomist or whatever it is? Like, where does that piece come in?
So with
I don't know. Lobotomist, whatever.
well, interestingly, for the Patterson Family Foundation, healthcare was not included as part of their.
Well, okay, I was just example, like, to me, it's like, okay, I put the headset on now what? Do we have what's in the goggles to like do the thing for all of the things that you just said?
So to answer that question in two ways, the grant has us partnering with a company that has a really robust grouping of programs in that area. So that's grant dependent. Not grant dependent, we're having more and more of our publishers have 3D assets. We have a professor now in HVAC that uses a 3D virtual reality programming for HVAC. Tooling U, which our welding department uses, has a virtual reality component. So more and more of our publishers are starting to, and the assets that we purchase for the classroom are building those things in. Is it as robust as if we get this grant, the suite of offerings we would have? No, not presently, but more and more, that's where they're moving.
The other thing that we have, whole card, if you will, the programs targeted for the Patterson are aligned programs with the state regions, which means they're eligible for us to use Perkins funds. We get Perkins funds through the state regions. It's a mix of state funds and federal funds. So worst case scenario is in FY26, we'd be able to commit Perkins funds to acquire the software. But in the meantime, we feel good about Patterson. As she mentioned, the publishers are getting there because that's their selling space. So we think we've got the bases covered. The gist of the Patterson grant, we're gonna implement it whether or not we get the funds, because it's based on getting out on the road, and this also becomes that mobile lab, so we drive enrollment and revenue. So we've tried to do a pretty good job of covering all those bases one way or another. Patterson just allows us to move more quickly.
But yeah, great question, because we're just seeing, I mean, every week I'm seeing more and more publishers saying, we have this asset or that asset that has this kind of technology.
A local HVAC company is already using VR to train their employees
And test.
and test, and that's been huge for our faculty to start seeing, so that they get over their qualms about it as well. You'll see on the screen either place, you see where it says Ask Copilot up there? Here at the top. What's Copilot? AI.
Say hi.
More about this in the retreat segment with the strategic plan. All of this is how we're going to start helping faculty and staff. How do we adapt to using this as a tool? ER and AR are more tools. It keeps us from having to invest in actual equipment. It allows people to find out, do I have interest and skills in this? And it's trying to keep up with our employers.
So Pamela, I heard something about training teachers. Is that outside of our own faculty?
Yes.
Yes, those would be the teachers in those rural
Okay.
committees.
Clay Center or wherever.
Exactly, to build their capacity, because ultimately they're the on the ground, boots on the ground influencers for those students, and to give them some technology through what we're calling tech packs. And providing them with mentoring and training with our professors, it just builds that capacity.
If Patterson is approved, even if it's not, we're going to go here, but with Patterson, the emphasis initially will be on Junction City, Clay Center, Marysville, Wamego schools, because they're in the rural targeted areas that we serve, as well as Fort Riley.
It's still kind of irritating that we can't bring in our northern schools from Riley County, but I understand
If
their.
we start putting some of our own money into it, like the Perkins funds or whatever, go through that.
Is the Patterson grant a 1-year grant, or is it over year grant? Was there match required with it, or just?
And as they indicated in visiting with us, they want to start establishing a long-term relationship with the tech colleges with us. So they have a separate initiative for healthcare that we'll look into. Their program officer did review our proposal prior to the deadline, just to see, were we way off base or not? Positive feedback. Let's see.
So 3 years, there's a set amount that's divided in thirds, or do you have, I guess, and you, Stephanie, you probably work more of these than I have. I worked a fair number, and some of them are, you get a third, and then you have to prove that you made this much progress to get the next.
This one is not as structured. They're still learning their way.
Oh, that's good.
So the final report, if you will, is after the third year.
That makes it even.
And what they're looking for in that report is just statistical, how many were touched.
They want us to improve keeping rural people, rural areas in good jobs.
And we had to establish for that grant benchmark, so we looked at some demographic data and said, we're looking at impacting percent different groups. So we provided some outcome measures and benchmarks that we would like to reach based upon, our predictions and our timeline.
They did visit in advance with 5 of the 7 tech colleges, because a couple of them weren't eligible, as well as some Missouri schools that they're working. I appreciated they kind of got some feedback from us about the idea, so they could kind of get a handle of what did we think the parameters could be. And that doesn't happen very often. We're able to give them feedback before they even issue the RFP for the proposal. Tuned. Building projects. It rained like cats and dogs today, and I'm proud to report the front entrance stayed dry.
Positive.
Yeah, so the front entrance project, again, for those new members or that haven't been here as long, had an ongoing battle with water leaks in the front entrance of our main building for years. We've tried different things on our own over the years. We got a new metal roof put on that building, and that ended up pushing more water to that front entrance area, overloads the gutters, and then the concrete had settled and it would funnel right into our main entrance. So we finally went through and had it repaired the correct way, working with the same contractor that built this building. And that also fixed, we had that Office of Civil Rights visits that Neil had mentioned, and part of that was ADA access type stuff. So we also fixed some concrete issues up there for wheelchair access. Long story short, that repairs now completely fixed that area for any leaks. The last thing we're waiting on is the sign. There'll be a nice Manhattan Tech sign up there. That's been stuck in production with Shirley. They've just been backlogged. The latest update I had was the first week of October. So hopefully that gets in and wrapped up. That project's still under budget. They'll have the sign installation, and then Economy Electric will come to finish wiring it in, and that'll be done. Right now, we just got a couple picnic tables up there. We're working with, outdoor furniture is extremely expensive. You probably know that. So we're playing around with, there's a local powder coater, and we're playing around with working with our welding department on some ideas for some brackets, and then work with construction tech to maybe do the vinyl type seating, some things to see if we can do in-house. I don't know. We're just kind of playing around with ideas right now. But that'll be the next project, is coming up with some nice outdoor seating for that area that's a little better than the old wood picnic tables. So
Might not be a bad opportunity to collaborate with K-State in their College of Interior Design, Interior Architecture. I think they have a furniture and product design,
okay, cool.
like a great studio project.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be 2 years out, unfortunately, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, all the work that we've done with Manco, they do a ton of powder coat.
Do they dip all their stuff in-house, do you know? Probably.
They have their own lab.
They have a full powder coating line.
Do they?
Yes,
Talk to them too.
it's all magnetized and
There's a little place over by Howie's that does it local. I can't think of the name, that we've been working with a little bit. But anyway, so some more on that to come.
one
Hopefully
more question on that front entry. Is there gonna be a roof over it or a pergola or anything like that?
at this time, no, doesn't mean that it's not set, when it can be done. That's the shade, we've had the same thought. We thought about the canopy ideas, and there's some different things we could definitely do as another phase. But at this time, there's nothing.
And maybe something that our construction technology could do, especially if we look at pergola type
Yeah.
construction.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember, they did the little smoke shack thing down here. It's really, they did a great job. Yeah, but kind of look at some design ideas, but yeah, it's set up so it can definitely be added to for that. Depending on which way we want to go. But yeah, and those, what I was thinking, that at least right now, fall and spring months are kind of our heaviest time right now, when hopefully at least the weather, you know, the dead of the summer, there should be less around up there hanging out, but it'd be nice to get some shade. We will have outdoor Wi-Fi there, electric outlet, so we can plug in, charge your phone and stuff.
You mentioned, since we're on building projects, remaining stuff for this building.
Yeah, so just little things like finishing up the VCT on the donor wall, a little bit of signage here and there. A couple of HVAC and fire alarm system issues we're just working through. Our fire alarm system keeps coming up with a ground fault they're having trouble fixing, but something pinched wire somewhere that they're checking out. So little things like that, but no big ticket items left.
The one thing that we'll have is when they get done with the design for the critical environment tech lab, but we're working on other approaches on paying for that. Shane with Thermal Comfort Air is doing, and then Brad with OSC, they're doing a pretty good job of getting a lot of things donated on the equipment side.
Yep.
That's been a special project because of having equipment that designed to fail. Many well and trained don't like saying our equipment to fail. Yeah, because
Within reason.
they just don't want us to advertise that fact. October 3rd, we're having a dinner in this building, I think in this building. We're inviting members of all the different advisory groups for the technical programs, so I can kind of go over some things with them. You're welcome to attend if you would like to, just let Susie know. We'll give them a recap of why they matter to us. Update about accreditation, business company and strategic plan, the different ways they can engage with us. So if you want to join us that evening, you're welcome to, you don't have to. We're hoping, I think we're getting pretty good turnout, at least representatives from each of the advisory groups. Some of the programs will have their advisory meetings after that dinner. That's coming up. My other institutions I've worked with, we tried to do that like every couple of years. We haven't never tried it here, so I really want to get it kicked off again because it's important for those folks to know their role and what we need from them, especially with more internships, donations, scholarships, that kind of more active engagement. On the lower part of the agenda, Susie listed, we have November board meetings the week of Thanksgiving when we're closed for fall break, and then December board meetings during Christmas break. Our annual dilemma of when do we want to fit in a November/December meeting? And we don't have to decide tonight, but throw out for your consideration, if check your calendars down the road, if December 3rd or 10th. We have the October one is October 29th. And generally, we have not tried to squeeze one in before Thanksgiving. We can. But usually we've tried to wait till that first part of December and catch a November-December combination.
So I guess it'd be a question for Kara. Would we have financial information?
For the audit,
Yeah.
it would be probably a stretch to have it by December. I think we normally have about in January or the in February.
Good. How about regular finance updates?
I mean, we can definitely provide an update at that point. I mean, we'll do quarters next time in October. So if we want just like an update of where we're at that point, we can do that.
Have a snapshot of it anyway.
I'm gonna send that out as options via vote. Are we deciding now?
Say, how are we gonna do this?
We'll let Susie send it out so you can get votes.
Are you also gonna send out anything on the invite for the October 3rd?
Then we have some program information to share with you. Curriculum committee, Carrie and many others have been busy. So one of the program sheets relates to the early childhood education program. We need your approval on these if you will if you'll do that. After you approve them, then we can get them packaged to send up to the Tech Ed Authority and the K Board for approval. So there's early childhood education, there's plumbing, and then the industrial engineering tech program we have. One of the aligned program options we have with K-Board to make it eligible for Perkins funds is called industrial maintenance technology. Our current equipment fits that program well. We won't stop with that program. The other aligned program is called automated engineering tech. That's where I intend to kind of push next, but we're gonna have to get some more investments in place for equipment to expand that program. So the industrial engineering tech is still a good way to describe what that does, but it's gonna be taking different phases of adding on equipment and other pathways for students. Jesse, you were in curriculum, you're in curriculum.
Sure. So what's in front of you, these are our draft program sheets. These will be finalized in spring once we're starting to work on our catalog. However, they do reflect our curriculum committee approved the new program. And then all the courses that are listed and their titles were approved through the curriculum committee. So we're just to the point where we need your all's support to say continue and go.
So in that industrial program, how much AR, VR can be used in that in the curriculum?
Sure, a significant amount, especially just because of the sheer cost of all those pieces. When you start talking about servos or any of these other large pieces, we've already been working with a couple different companies. One is Tap 3D. They're a really cool VR company, but we also work with Z-Space, and they already have the Festo like branded stuff. And so we're just looking at different options, trying to figure out the most cost effective, but there is a solid thing where almost all of the modules that are happening within this IMT program can at least start with VR. And then as we start to venture out and we start putting people at Manco or wherever, then they can get that field experience of on the real equipment.
But part of it's also a transition with our faculty to get used to teaching via VR methods and not the real thing.
Oh, I can beat the instructor.
Well, I assume this is all here. Early childhood, is that eventually gonna be done in the building over there or here?
The courses will be delivered as a hybrid approach, so it's gonna be a combination of face-to-face and online. The actual accelerator building, if things go as they hope it goes, there won't be room to do classes there, but it will be used to place students for the observations, practicums. But we've asked Lisa to design the delivery by a hybrid approach so that it's more accessible. For instance, I think Chris will agree. We anticipate students at Junction City, Manhattan, and Wamego taking some of that. The primary course in the program will transfer into K-State's early childhood or elementary education program.
That's my next question.
So we anticipate we'll get some co-enrollment, some Excel and CTE enrollment by students thinking of that, but they get this out of the way, and part of the requirement to get the certificate or the degree in early childhood is that observation or practical experience in a childcare.
And from a facility side, we'll plan on several fronts. If that building's done, great, we have another space, but if not, this program will be all next year. We'll have space here to also run.
Okay.
Either vote on them separately or take it. Yeah, any other questions?
I'd entertain a motion to accept this as a package.
So moved.
It's been moved. Second.
Sure.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Mr. Ross is going to give you some updates on enrollment. I'm going to preface it by saying what he's going to share with you is a snapshot. When you hear the K-Board enrollment report, which will come out any day, it's a snapshot. This is nothing at all final. We will have enrollment continuing through the semester. We'll have spring enrollment. So remember, we didn't take new students into a couple programs. Universities, community colleges are both chasing gen ed students in high schools like crazy, rock bottom prices that we can't afford to do. That, Ross, take it away.
Jim stole my fun thunder.
Have them blame me than you.
So. So as Jim stated, obviously, this is a Dean of Student Services report to the board. This is not Kim's official report to K-Board. There might be there. You also don't have it in your board report because we're not allowed to release the preliminary numbers till K-Board does it. So that's why we're just gonna talk it over unofficially today. Right? As Jim said, even with this new shiny building, we were anticipating some probably holding it fairly the same as last year or being a little under. Preliminary totals for this academic year in credit hours is about sitting at 6,400.5 credit hours is what I have. Last year's preliminary numbers on credit hours was 7,227. Obviously, that's a change in 827 credit hours, which does show a reduction. Most of those is a reduction from high school enrollment numbers in the gen ed sectors. However, there are some in the programs. Not taking in another cohort of about 23 INT students reduced that, as well as the IET program. That was another one that we didn't take in the entire cohort for as well. With that being said, the head count, which matters to y'all, the unduplicated head count is around 173 or 100 or 855, depending upon, we'll figure out what that is in the range of disparity there and what is reported to the board. But about 85, so the credit hour in 23 was 958, so we're down about 85 students as well with tracks. If you were to do the math on 85 students taking about a course load of about 12 credit hours, that puts you at about a 900 credit hour deficit. So it's a load. That's kind of the preliminary unofficial totals. The weird thing about the 20th day enrollment numbers is we continue to have enrollment after the 20th day. So keep that in mind. Kim's going to report what our running total was as of 9/16/2024 to K-Board. However, we have CNA, we have CMA, we have all these short-term allied health courses that continue to enroll. So those credit hours only will increase, they won't decrease, because by the 20th day, all of the students are past their withdrawal dates for most of our courses. So anything that's reduced at this point doesn't hit the deficit on the budget aspect as well. I did break out based upon undergraduate and high school students as well, but it doesn't break that out, so I can't give you the comparative there. The credit hours were about 1,888.5 with high school. For the undergraduate, it's about 4,512. So like I said, that we're down a little bit in undergraduate and we're down a little bit in high school. And I think it doesn't surprise me based upon not taking in the cohort and some of the conversations we had with the gen eds at the high school and losing, I would say, a significant portion, unfortunately, at MHS probably. But I foresee this next fall with Fort Riley and everything else coming on, only going back up. We saw a little blip because we've decided to close a couple programs, and we're obviously having that fair run with high schools, but with the increase in Junction City coming on board and with the increase in Fort Riley, and then with the increase of 5 programs next year. So this is, unfortunately, when you do enrollment, I would love to always go up, but you're going to have some of those waves up and down. This unfortunately is a little bit of a downside, but in conversations initially with Josh on the side, we budget conservatively on the side of budgeting for this. And this right now, based upon what we're taking in from what I've heard, Eric can speak on the behalf as well. We have anticipated that we'll be fine based upon the numbers that are coming in. That makes sense.
On gen ed for a moment. Allen County Community College, for instance, in their territory, reaches into Topeka, other places, but they're offering gen ed to the high school students for $21 a credit hour. There's a rate to 0 on gen ed between the community colleges. That colleges are going, we can't give it away. Regents will be asking the legislature to consider a proposal to do a similar program like LMTTE on the career side for Gen Ed statewide, allowing high school students to finish up to 5 NS courses free of charge paid for by the state. State regents are also considering doing away with service area. There's pros and cons either way. So as Neil said, you know, I've prepped you about some of this. We're revamping the networking tech into cybersecurity. We're giving Mark time to change into industrial maintenance technology, but also thinking of the phases that come next. We've already seen with this building, HVAC's enrollment was up almost 60%, construction tech almost 25%. By next fall, this building is full. Chris has had great conversations with USD 383. If we can schedule courses for those students out here next fall, in the afternoon from 1 to 3, they're going to bus kids out here. That moves all of it, that Excel and CTE revenue to us. Here comes Fort Riley, here comes Junction City. So yeah, this year is going to be a little flat to down, hoping for next year. In addition to the programs, the 2 new ones in the revised one you approved tonight, we'll be bringing electrician technology, we'll be bringing cyber security technologies, and even a data analytics program. What I have told a lot of our folks, I don't see much else changing coming across at us on the horizon after that. Most of the programs we're going to have in place are what we need to have. Our challenge would be the continued integration of AI and the VR and AR and how we teach students and how we learn from employers, how they're teaching their employees to do the job. So.
Are there other tech colleges that have courses in cybersecurity?
There are several that don't. I've already prepped the K-Board staff because the universities throw a fit when we start talking about these things.
One piece I did want to add, because I don't like leaving with a bad note. Data tells us a little, but it doesn't tell us the full picture. One of those full pictures being GD and ESL is obviously non-credit bearing courses. And that's not obviously represented in the data, the credit hours and whatnot. But if you look at our GD and ESL populations this term, we have 172 students enrolled in that program. So that's regardless of being down in areas, that's 172 people, 78 of them are doing GED. 94 of them are doing ESL. So that's a huge service back to the community that isn't always represented in the data as well, because K-Board cares about credit bearing, not non-credit bearing.
They want it at the undergrad credit bearing level.
But in past practice, past trends are common. We usually get 30 to 40% of those folks coming on to us as students. And we are initiating, Chris is initiating conversations to create the adult funding we might be able to recoup. And the state's looking to increase the budget for adult ed statewide because it's a huge area that we need. If we want workforce, we gotta get adult ed. So any questions on enrollment? I feel pretty confident that next year at this time we'll have champagne or something because we're gonna knock enrollment through the road. President's report you have, I'll add a couple things. State regents last week approved their ask to go to the governor. Not only are they operating grant funding in there, what was the new proposed outcome funding? They did not do that for the community college. There is some angst on some of my brethren, especially those who are affiliated, because I spoke up at the Regents meeting about forced affiliation. I have nothing against the ones who did. There is some movement by folks connected to a university south and a bit west of us, forced affiliation with the tech college in that same community. And so I took advantage of my time to talk to the regents and kind of blasted about play to our strengths and quit screwing us up. some of the affiliated folks happy with me. Oh, well. Key thing is the funding package right now going to the governor. It's good. But more than that, we've heard from key legislators who are saying, yes, bring this to us, we're ready. This is Steve Howe, it's fine, so. City, we're good with the city with their part in helping with this building,
County's still being obstinate.
but we're working on some things that. The key thing, and we'll let Chris talk about this more in another meeting. But there's also some very cool initiatives from the several companies in the area. Whether it's the adult ed, ESL, training. That, you know, I keep talking about the enterprise track. That's the thing I think that may happen faster. Any questions for me on? What I can disclose.
Okay. Are we basically 2-1 county? For the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we've had some good conversation, probably have a strategy in mind to use. I want to say this publicly, you've got both the senior admin here, Carrie's not here tonight. These folks, we can't thank them enough for what these folks do for this college. Faculty staff, but these folks, we've been pushing the gas hard. But like I said, I've tried to tell them I don't see new programs coming. But they need a lot of recognition, and frankly they need some rest. We've been pushing hard. After we get through the accreditation visit, we're gonna kind of say, okay, deep breath. Take a chill pill, see a movie, read a book. Two of them did go golfing together last week and they came back and none of them were scarred.
Not physically.
One hit a ball pretty good, but the club went another direction.
Somebody who's been working out too much.
And nobody tipped a card over this time.
I think I saw one of them pick up the ball and just chuck it.
100%.
That's tech math
good.
too.
Most of us are foot wedge, it's the best shot.
We do have to have one executive session for a few minutes and then we'll do an adjournment. Susie will get food ready and then we'll go to the retreat. We only have 2 items on the retreat agenda unless you want to add it.